All right, welcome to the show. This is the FantasyLabrats, and I'm joined by Nani and Oven Mitts. And we are here to talk about Week 8 afternoon games. And so these are the games that are after 4 p.m. So we have four games for you today. And we will be going through each one, talking about who we like, who we don't like, and who we're going to fade. So the first game we're going to talk about is the New York Jets versus at Oakland. And the spread is Oakland +3. It opened at PK. And so let's get right to it. Who do we like in this game?
All right, so I'm just going to start this off by saying that basketball's on. KC's in the World Series. That's going to be on. And we got football this Sunday. So, in the words of Drake, what a time to be alive. Am I right? So, in this game, though, and every game after 4 p.m. is pretty much a snoozer. So,
Yeah.
if you make it to 4 p.m. watching all the games, good luck staying awake. The Jets versus the Raiders. For cash, I'm looking at pretty much only one guy, and that's Brandon Marshall. He's risen to one of the pretty expensive options, and I think the reason that he's about, in the top five of receivers this week is that he provides some sort of safety that some of the other receivers don't, in that their floor is his floor is pretty high.
Yeah.
He's averaging just about 20 fantasy points a game, and in this last game he had around 8, but he had a touchdown just hit him in the hands and fall, and there was like nobody around him versus the Patriots, so he could have kept up that 20-point performance, which is why I think he's a pretty safe cash play, particularly against a Oakland Raiders defense that's not the greatest against the pass. That's how you attack them, really, is through the pass. So I like Brandon Marshall. I feel like he's a safe option. But I do feel like there is a backdrop to him if you try to play him in a GPP, because we just haven't seen any real heavy upside, like 2 touchdown, 30-point upside that you'd want at a price like this. So I don't think you're putting Brandon Marshall in your tournament lineups. On the Raiders side for cash, I just see nobody. The Jets defense is so good that, normally you would think Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, maybe Crabtree as your wide receiver 3. But the cornerbacks, you have Revis guarding probably Amari Cooper, and you have Cromartie guarding Crabtree. Probably not safe options. What do you guys think? Are either of you guys going to roster one of these two guys?
I was
Nope.
thinking the same thing. Fade
Yeah.
the wide receivers.
Yeah,
Too scary.
so, for cash and tourney, I'm not really looking anywhere on the Raiders. Another cash option for the Jets that I forgot to mention is the defense, obviously. We've had the Raiders play pretty much crappy teams and look good, and play good teams and look horrible. So I would consider the Jets at 4-2, I believe. They've been looking good, so I think that playing the defense has some upside at, I believe it's 4,800 is the defense's price. Yeah, a lot of the defenses this week are 4,800, so I like him. For tourneys, I'm thinking that maybe you could do a stack with Fitzpatrick and Eric Decker. If Eric Decker plays, he has a knee issue right now, so you're going to have to watch that for game time. But Fitzpatrick has shown over the last few weeks that his production is going up. He started around 13 points, he went to 17 points, 20, and he even had a 26-point game. So I think it's green pastures versus the Raiders defense. So I like Ryan Fitzpatrick in tournaments. And another tournament option, obviously, with the Raiders defense is the tight end. Jeff Cumberland is the Jets tight end. He's minimum price. If you want to take a real big risk and play some guy who hasn't gotten any love all year.
Does he even get the targets to
No,
warrant
he
tourney play?
doesn't.
I think so. Well, it's not so much the targets. We've seen this, right? Like Max, what is his name? The Ravens tight end. Can we even name the
Crockett
guy?
Gilmore?
Rocket Gilmore. He's been pretty much a nobody, and the only team he blew up on was the Raiders, right? Gary Barnidge blew up out of nowhere. He had done nothing the 2 previous games. He came out of nowhere. So I think, just
Like a
based on the
week in the
tight end
beat.
logic, it could be a fantasy zombie thing where he's dead all year, pops up this game, and then dies again. So I think if you're taking a flyer, I do think Jeff Cumberland's worth it because the Raiders are giving 1 to 2 touchdowns to their tight ends. So I don't think it's a terrible play. I personally prefer Ladarius Green if I'm punting at that position. So for fades, I obviously have the Raiders offense everywhere.
Yeah, the Raiders offense are pretty scary to play this week. I see you have written here that you have Cooper only has 1 red zone targets. That's pretty scary. I mean, he's been a good receiver all year, but only having one red zone target, especially against a very solid Jets defense, very, very scary to play.
Yeah, that's actually makes Amari Cooper not appealing, not just in this matchup, but matchups to come. The fact that he's not part of their red zone plan. He has one red zone target on the year, so he's just not playable if he's not getting. I mean, in a touchdown heavy fantasy sport,
Yeah.
it's really hard to play him. You're basically just depending on the long bomb, which to this point has actually been a
Pretty good for him.
with them. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to depend on that. It actually makes me wonder how they've been scoring their touchdowns because Crabtree hasn't been a touchdown monster and Latavius Murray hasn't been a touchdown monster. So it must just be bombers to Amari Cooper that keeps them in games. Is that what you guys would think?
Yeah, I think they control the game with mostly just a little bit more of a balance, a little bit of throwing, a little bit of running. There's nothing so dominant with their game right now. I think they're still trying to find their identity, and we'll probably see it throughout the season. But right now, they're sort of like an offense that's showing some life. I'm pretty excited about them, but not against this Jets defense.
Yeah, I think it's more not even just this year. I think maybe next year we're going to start to see more. They're not going to win their division. They don't have a really good schedule, so
I mean, they might have a chance against Denver. No.
with the current.
No.
Yeah. You know what's interesting though is if you think about it, next year, who leads the division? Peyton's probably not going to be playing. The Chargers continue to suck and are probably moving and maybe possibly in a different division. The Chiefs have sucked and Jamal Charles might not be himself. The Raiders actually might be good next year to go to the playoffs. This is what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, it's interesting. In terms of who's been scoring the touchdowns on Oakland, I think Halu has one or two, for sure.
Marcel Reese has a couple.
Marcel Reese has
Oh,
one or two.
Reese, that's right.
And I think,
Murray has several.
yeah, Mari has a couple, and Crabtree has one or two.
Yeah, it's just they spread it around a
spread it
lot
out.
and
They
in
do.
against this defense.
Right.
But if you're in a tournament and you're like, YOLO, I don't care about the defense and I want to be super contrarian, Amari Cooper, like if he is catching just bombers to salvage his value, anybody can give up a bomber, you know?
Yeah, and they could be playing from behind too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for this game, I was super fading Latavius Murray. The leading rusher against the Jets in last week was Tom Brady. So
Right.
I think their defense is proving to be actually pretty solid against the pass and the run. So
Yeah. So just one quick question to you, Nani. What would you do with Chris Ivory?
Chris Ivory, they're saying he's questionable. They are they just activated Stephen Ridley off the squad, right? Like he's cleared to play again.
Does that scare you?
It does a little bit. I think for this matchup, I think considering that Ivory is practicing and he's not really showing that he's not going to play, I think you roll him out. I against an Oakland defense is not very good against the run. I think you go with that. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, last week he was banged up in the game, and he still salvaged some value by catching a touchdown. I think it's going to be sort of the same thing. But the fact that he's practicing makes me believe that he's not as injured as you think.
So just you saying this has brought to my attention. Are we scared for the future of Ivory?
Oh yeah,
he's got Ridley, he's got Zach Stacy, who's been good in the past, and you have Powell, who's sort of been lingering for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, Ivory is a player that's shown that he's very good when healthy. He has a history of getting injured, and fantasy players know this, and the Jets organization being, the multi-million, billion-dollar, team they are, they know this as well. Yeah, so I mean, they know he's injured, and they're just getting insurance on their own team. They're just signing all these running backs, and they're ready for it just in case it happens.
So as long as he's healthy, you're still okay rolling him out. For the
think
rest of the year, if he's healthy, you think these other guys are sort of non-factors?
I think so. I mean, it's hard to really make a judgment, but for this game against the Raiders, I think you can safely roll them out. Against a more scary matchup, then maybe you might consider you
So you're going to play the matchups. You don't.
Yeah, I still say about the matchups. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's move it to the next game. We have Seattle at Dallas, and the spread is plus 5.5 Dallas. And Seattle is 3-4. Dallas is 2-4. I think the big story on the Dallas team is Dez is coming back this week, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Maybe
we're
we can
excited
see
about
some
that.
Craig Hardy, Des Bryant fist fight action.
Oh yeah, forgot about that Hardy. Everyone's like hush hush. It's
There's
okay, Hardy.
also man, Dallas is just full of news lately, huh? So
Oh, yeah.
there's other news with the other running back who used to be the starter, Randall. He's now out of the picture. He was the starter. He was running. He got 3 touchdowns like several games ago, and then he just slowly got faded out. And then he lost his job, and then he decided to not show up to practice. He started going crazy. Now he's getting, disciplined by the league for his underwear stealing incident and other incidents that he has.
Oh, is that what he's getting punished for?
I have no idea.
I thought it was marijuana.
He does a lot of stuff. He does a lot of stuff.
There was a domestic issue. There was the marijuana. There was the underwear. He got injured and then didn't go to the physical therapy. In the article, it's probably by TMZ and completely wrong, but it's saying that he didn't go specifically because he's mad that he lost his role as the starter. So it's just like, I don't, pick up Christian Michael in your season long while you still can.
Yeah, it's just crazy. There's just so much news about that guy all of a sudden. But I think it's pretty funny. So I'll sort of go into the games and we'll talk about it as we go. Cash plays I have as Marshawn Lynch at 8,300. It's pretty obvious. He's just going against Dallas's third most given points to fantasy running backs. He has a high volume. Last game he came back, people are like sort of questioning Marshawn Lynch. He's getting like 18, 17 carries a game, which isn't that great. And then he came through last week for owners and got 27 carries, got 18 fantasy points. He had a good outing. Against Dallas, I think you sort of roll with it and just keep on playing him. So I think he's a good cash play, high floor. He also has, multi-touchdown upside if given the scenario that this will probably be a really run-heavy game with such a low under. For tourney plays, I have written down as Darren McFadden on the other side. Like I said, I feel like this is going to be a running game on both sides. Darren McFadden right now is the starter for now. He'll get the bulk of the carries. He'll also get checkdowns, so that's good in terms of FanDuel where you get half-point PPR. So I think Darren McFadden is also an interesting tourney play. So one thing I sort of wanted to mention is that if you are a believer in Christian Michael, this is a revenge game. It's a revenge game, guys. Come on. If you really believe this is
He's gonna get some carries too. That's for sure.
If you really believe this is the game for Christian Michael, feel free.
Are you playing him?
I am in no way playing him in any tourney at all. So
then,
just throwing it out there, though.
You're by far the strongest believer of the revenge rule.
Hey,
but
it
you
worked
don't
out.
actually play the guys.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But it worked out the last couple of weeks. Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there, just in case someone out there is listening and wants to play revenge. There you go.
You did.
Another player for tourney is Jimmy Graham. He's not. His role is like sort of weird. I'm not very happy with it. I don't think any fantasy owners are very happy with it. But like I said in the last stream, the tight end position for this week is pretty weak. There's a lot of bye week tight ends that you can't play this week. At 6,100, Jimmy Graham is starting to cost less. He still leads the team in red zone targets, and if they're gonna be going down the field, they're gonna be rushing down the field. If he just has the red zone opportunities to cash out and help you in tourney play. So I think Jimmy Graham is like a decent tourney play as well. And so the last thing I have is my fade for the game is I am not trusting this Des Bryant news. I am not going to play Des Bryant in any format. Do you guys feel the same way about that?
He plays like if the news comes out and says he's no longer questionable, he will play. You still don't play him?
No, I don't play him. Even if they promise no pitch count and all that stuff, and he'll be playing. No, in no format do I play him. There's too many variables going into this. Okay, so first you have Matt Castle. He's your quarterback. You're expecting Matt Castle to all of a sudden go from a bottom feeding quarterback to all of a sudden this elite quarterback, which is not going to happen. He hears me. That's fine. So you need that to happen. You're also going up against Seattle Seahawks defense, so you're expecting them to have a bad game and let him slip through them. That's another thing you have to account for. And then the third one is the dude is injured. He had like a foot fracture, the same type that kept Durant out the whole last season in NBA? Like, no. Like, sure, he'll play, but there's no promise that he won't just re-injure it again or just do terrible. When Durant came back from his injury, he took a while to come back, and when he did, he was terrible for the first several months, and then he eventually got re-injured and just was out for the season. So if he's forcing himself to come back so quick, there is a high chance of re-injury. And so
I don't like particularly like this Durant comparison because basketball takes a lot of finesse to like score the basketball into the hoop, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this is like football is more like if you can run and cut, you're good.
And jump.
And jump, obviously. And I think
it's still a sport and players are running into you. Like, no, like it doesn't matter to me. Like, you still need to be at 100%, otherwise you don't do well in the NFL. So there's just so many factors into this game that, and to top it off, he's worth $8,000 FanDuel dollars. That's a lot that you can get a quality WR1 where you know they have a better situation, better quarterback, something like that to where you feel a little bit better playing them. So I will fade Des Bryant. Are you guys with me on this or no?
I am with you, and I'm going to steal a comparison from the Fantasy Football Edge podcast. They actually compared the type of people who will play Des Bryant to the type of person who is on an airplane, and when they finally land, the person who gets up and runs to the front before everyone else and just stands there. Because it's the people who are getting in line before we know what we really have, and there's not really much to gain. And I'm with you. I think Des Bryant is a total risk. His quarterback situation, I mean, they may not even have chemistry, which is always one big thing. But I do think that it's a severe chance that he just re-injures it. I understand that football and basketball are different things, but I think that football is far more physical. So even if he's not doing the things that he's doing on a basketball court, being hit by a 300-pound man is pretty bad on any part of your body. So I don't think you play Des Bryant, but the difference between me and Nani on the analysis of this game is that I think this game is a complete stay away. You do not play people in tournaments and in cash, much like the other games that we're going to analyze here. Dallas has an ability to ball control better than anybody else in the league. And in the first 2 weeks, maybe it was the first 2 weeks, first 2 weeks we had Tony Romo, they were able to put that plan into action. And when you played people against the Dallas defense, you weren't too happy with the results because they never had a chance to have the ball because Dallas was too busy holding on to it. Yeah. And then when Romo got hurt and Whedon became the quarterback, they lost the ability to control the ball because they couldn't get first downs. So then Dallas's defense sort of declined into the ranks of the bottom feeders. Now that we have Matt Castle after last week, we actually saw them ball control the whole game and make all of the New York Giants players fantasy irrelevant.
It's true.
So consider that when you're also playing Seattle players, for one, but also the Seattle offense is much less up-tempo than the Giants even. So they're going to be slowing down the game. So there's just no value anywhere because it's going to be the slow, churning game where the teams are holding onto the ball forever. I just don't see any real high upside in playing this game.
That's fair.
You don't like Wheaton? We didn't talk about Wheaton at all, but Seattle. Castle. Jason Witten.
Oh, Witten.
Oh, Witten.
You said Whedon, bro. I do like Witten, but again, it's just the game script doesn't play. Yeah. They did use Witten. Now I'm trying to say Whedon. They did use Witten an excess amount because the quarterback, he's sort of like the safety check down for any quarterback that plays with Witten, including Whedon. But again, it's going to be a low-scoring game. The total over-under is 40.5, which is the second lowest compared to the St. Louis game, and it's just a low total in general. So Witten may get a touchdown, but I think the upside is capped.
Yeah, I think I'd rather play Jimmy Graham than Witten, but again,
the price point is different though.
By 600, it's not. Yeah.
Let's just agree that we're not playing players in this game and move on.
Yeah, we don't really like it too much.
Let's stop wasting 15 minutes on this game. All right. Next game is more, I think, exciting than the previous game.
Dude, I totally disagree.
It's Green Bay, who has arguably the best offense. versus at Denver, with the spread being Denver plus 2.5. So this is your game.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'd like to hear why you disagree.
I disagree with you in the fact that they have arguably the best offense because the Bengals and the Patriots are like miles ahead of the Packers. The Packers have lost Jordy Nelson. Their second receiver is James Jones, who is getting cut by a bunch of teams. And Cobb has not looked good in like 3 straight weeks. Eddie Lacy has not looked good.
Shoulder that's doing that?
It could be. There's also been just bad matchups. He basically had one explosion game and hasn't been existing since then, and that was like 4 weeks ago. Fat Eddie is they say he's not hurt, but I don't think we can even trust what the coach is saying. You can't roll Eddie out there, particularly in such a bad matchup. And Green Bay on the road does not look like Green Bay at home. They're completely different teams. It's Jekyll and Hyde. Green Bay's scoring on the road is usually like 10 to 15 points lower, and Denver's already not allowing more than 24 points in any game. So the whole Green Bay offense is just a big, scary mess to me. And I know Aaron Rodgers is sometimes immune to this type of thing, but he himself on the road is pretty mediocre. So put him in a matchup against Denver, the number 1 ranked defense against fantasy quarterbacks. I'm just not touching it.
Nope.
And then you go to the other side of the ball, and it's Peyton, who sucks. Like we've seen, is just like getting worse, and he's deteriorating as the season goes on. And he's versus a defense that is particularly good at attacking the quarterback. So he's going to be trying to get rid of the ball fast, playing these predictable plays. They can't run the ball. So as far as fantasy goodness in this game, I really don't see anything the same way in the Seattle game. I just don't think that there's anybody worth playing. I think a nice tournament play would be either of the defenses, particularly the Packers defense, because they're going to be forcing Peyton to make mistakes, which results in interceptions, which he's throwing when the defense isn't even putting pressure on him. So there's some upside to the Packers defense. I guess another option could be Ronnie Hillman. I mean, I don't want to leave people out and say that both sides of the ball are completely unplayable, but they kind of are. Ronnie Hillman's taken the starting role from C.J. Anderson, who's like one of the biggest busts this year. Ronnie Hillman, 6,100. They're like Woodhead's the same price. Duke Johnson's a little bit cheaper, and those are 2 guys I would rather have than him. But a GPP flyer, maybe Hillman. If they're going to win the game, it's going to be on the ground because Peyton can't throw. I don't know. Can you draft a punter in DFS? Can you do that or no? I would take both the punters. I would stack both the punters and maybe add a field goal kicker. But other than that, I ain't got nobody.
Do you guys know who leads the NFL in interceptions this year?
I thought it was the Panthers.
No, it's quarterback.
Oh,
Well, if you're bringing it up now, I'm going to say Peyton.
He's tied with someone else.
Rodgers.
No, he's not tied with Rodgers. Okay, so he's tied with
and
Luck's throwing a lot of picks. Is it Luck?
It's not Luck.
Oh, Luck missed a few games.
Winston.
Not Winston.
Just tell us.
Eli.
It's Bradford.
Oh, that makes sense. And
No, that's my question. What do you mean and?
I thought you were going somewhere with this, but that was it.
That's it.
No, that's it.
Nani, are you playing anybody in this game?
So no Demarius, no Emmanuel Sanders, no Randall Cobb, no.
For their costs, no.
Jones, Monte Adams, Richard Lewis, Owen Daniel sucks, but I'll mention him anyway. So none of those.
I think if you're playing anybody, for me, it's Emmanuel Sanders, just because they have shown that they're trying to get the deep ball going, because to get the deep ball going, that's how you get the run going. And the guy that they throw deep to sometimes is Emmanuel Sanders. He caught one for a touchdown. He hasn't really done anything else, but if you're taking a flyer on one of the guys, it's Emmanuel Sanders. But I'm with Nani. I think their prices have to come down significantly, at least 1K on each of them before they become viable plays on the Denver side of the ball. I think on the Green Bay side of the ball, we're just playing matchups, and this is a horrendous matchup. They're the best defense in the league.
I think it'll be a fun game to watch. Like, I'm looking forward to this game.
It's a 6-0 versus 6-0. They're both.
Yeah, I think it's a fun game to watch. But in terms of fantasy, I agree. I think you're going to be up for a lot of disappointment if you like really put a lot of stock into this game for fantasy purposes.
Yeah. One sort of confusing thing is that the over/under is 46, which isn't
Yeah.
as low as I would assume with the statements that I'm making. So somebody somewhere is going to score. It's just, is it going to be 3 touchdowns by Starks or I
So
don't know.
here's a question for you guys.
Um,
Who do you see doing better, James Starks or Eddie Lacy?
Lacy probably. You just have to go with the starter. They're telling us he's healthy again, and I just tend to see these like really good run defenses. They fare worse against the plotter type than the finesse type, and Eddie Lacy is like the definition of the plotter type. He's
I'm
not
feeling,
quite Tolbert, but
I'm feeling Lacey as well. Just because if he's back, then he's going to be back. Starks does look better in terms of the running, but I think, I don't know, it's still Eddie Lacy. I feel like maybe the legacy of Eddie Lacy is still lingering with me, so that it's hard to see Starks going off on like compared to Eddie Lacy and say
He did last week or 2 weeks ago.
Lacy has not.
No,
Starks.
Starks
Yeah.
went off.
Yes, I've seen that. I saw that, and I'm still like, well, still Eddie Lacy is probably their best running back.
If
Like,
I was
I
forced
still
to
haven't
roster,
shaken it off yet.
if I was forced to roster a guy, it would probably be Starks just because of price. I think they probably split the carries, and Eddie Lacy comes out a slight beneficiary. But for the price, I think you just roll with Starks. He's easier to pay off his price.
Yeah, I to throw my 2 cents in. I think Eddie Lacy, because he got off a bye, I think that's going to help him in terms of health, and I think he has a turnaround. I think he'll start producing again. Not enough to where I would endorse him as a play for tourney and cash purposes, but I do think this is where he'll start picking it up again and start plotting his way towards being one of those top running backs again.
It's a hard proposition to tell me that a guy who's been bad all year in good and bad matchups is going to have a good game, a good-ish game
Against
versus
Denver.
Against
It's
Denver.
because of the
Yeah.
legacy of Eddie Lacy. I'm actually feeling a Richard Rodgers sleeper play, just because their corners are so good, and all the wide receivers are slightly banged up in their own way. I think Richard Rodgers is going to have a sneaky game where Denver hasn't game planned around this guy at all because he's semi-irrelevant. So I'm feeling a Richard Rodgers quick play game, like where Aaron Rodgers has to get rid of the ball quick. Rodgers rolls out. The other Richard Rodgers rolls out and gets a pass in the red zone. And
Is that for cash or tourney play?
tourney play.
I mean, you can say that's a call, but nobody's ever playing that guy. Not even you making the call would.
I'm thinking about it.
Ah,
I'm actually thinking about it.
ah.
All the other tight ends are meh.
Ladarius Green,
Nah.
the mega chalk, Ladarius Green.
Yeah, he is.
I'm just not feeling the Chargers at all. That's why. Thinking about it. And plus, it's such a great game not to have stock in it. They're both 6-0. Gotta have some stock in this to make it.
I want people like you in every tournament who's like,
No,
the game's on TV. I gotta play the people in the game that's on TV.
All right.
You're the type of guy that plays his lineup. He's like the Thursday lineup. I'm putting every player from the Thursday lineup so that I can see
My
my
role
name at the
on
top.
this show is to be the public's public. I have accepted this role.
I don't think the public's on Richard Rodgers, bro.
I think
so.
looking at
I am the public and the sucker. That's my role on this.
so looking at the Broncos versus tight ends, the only touchdowns they've allowed are to Gary Barnidge, 2 of them last
Who's
2
a
weeks.
beast?
But other than that, no other tight end has gotten touchdowns, and I think Richard Rodgers relies on touchdowns.
So I just pulled up his stats, and for the season, he's 21 targets completed, 190 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's not like totally
Across 7 games?
In 7 games, 21
Yeah.
targets is terrible. It's like 3 a game.
3 game. I don't
Terrible.
know. It's not
Ladarius
that
Green
bad.
has the chance of getting 7 to 10 targets.
Gronk
I'll take that.
almost had all those stats in 1 game. Just to throw that up for
I
comparison.
think Gronk got 4 targets.
We should not be talking about Richard Rodgers as long as we are. Can we just move to the next game?
You heard it here first, boys. All right.
Hey, it doesn't matter whether first. You're the only one. You heard it here only, boys.
I'm the first and the last. There you go. Okay, the last game is Indianapolis at Carolina. The spread is Carolina -7. Over under is 47. This is an interesting game. So Carolina's undefeated. Colts are having a slow season. What do you guys think about this game?
So, for me, I see this game as, the Colts are struggling against the Panthers, who are doing really well and doing very well defensively. Cash plays, I didn't feel like there's any really good safe plays with anyone with really high floors for this matchup. So I sort of put no one down as cash. Do you guys have anyone that you guys really feel well about cash?
I would say Cam Newton, just because I always say he has a pretty high floor.
Yeah.
Even last week he threw 3 interceptions, most of them which were not his fault. And he got a rushing touchdown, and he finished with like 14, which for his price isn't great, but he didn't kill you.
It's just that I feel like around 8,000 there's better options for cash. So I sort of didn't put him down. And Turney,
How about Greg Olsen for cash?
That's good too.
that's a pretty good one. Greg Olsen is getting 100% of he's in 100% of plays, but he's not getting a lot. He's still getting a lot of targets, so he's okay play for cash. He's had a lot of on and off games though for me. Too much to
So
trust
he's more
him.
of a tourney play, you think?
I think he's more of a tourney play, I would say. Ideally for cash, you want someone with a higher floor, and Greg Olsen last week he barely ended up with like 3-4 points. So
It's just hard to find a tight end with a high floor.
It is.
Like I was thinking about Eifert, and I feel like he's a good cash play this week, but he actually had 0 in the third game.
Yeah, but
I had him. I remember.
But he gets a lot of red zone targets, so you are maximizing your chances of finding the red zone for Eifert, that is, right? So
Because Greg Olsen's pretty much the same way.
yeah,
He's like
And the matchup
he's like
isn't
the
that
only
bad.
target. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like him as a cash player. You guys can. I'm not a big fan of that. In terms of tourney, I have Jonathan Stewart, who I'm always against Jonathan Stewart. But since the bye, he's had 20 carries a game, more than 20 carries a game. And Carolina likes to run. And they're running against the 27th ranked running back defense in the Colts. So this is a good pairing, and I think it's a good situation that it bodes for a good game for him. I think it's a good tourney play. I'm okay running it out. I mean, last week, Tolbert stole a couple touchdowns, and I just don't see that happening all the time. Cam is always going to be a threat. So I understand there's always that threat that, he's going to get vultured all his touchdowns. But if he's going to get 27 carries and against a bad defense, he's going to get at least 100 yards, if not more than likely a touchdown. So I'm okay putting him in as a tourney play. He has a good floor, and he has the potential to get... If he gets touchdowns, he'll be a really good play in terms of returning your value.
That's such the risk, though, right? Is that
It is.
like you said, Tolbert will steal, Cam will steal, and that's enough, right?
Yeah,
two guys are like
it's
little,
true.
those are the red zone guys.
But the price tag on him is at 6,600. It's pretty good value, I think. That's like the main thing for me is
I'd say
the
pretty
money.
good value for the number of carries, but his ceiling is low for a tourney play.
yeah,
I think.
let's say he gets the 100 yards and then he sneaks a touchdown. 17. You need the ideal situation to happen for him to return his value, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
who else around 6,600 are you gonna find that will get
Frank
that
Gore?
amount of volume?
Woodhead.
Gore, Bernard.
Gore against Carolina is probably
Woodhead
not
to
gonna
me
happen.
is situational. What are the running backs? Let's see.
Darren McFadden is like 64.
Against Seattle. You don't mess with that.
No, I don't mess with that. So around Jonathan Stewart, you have players like Frank Gore against Carolina defense, which I would not endorse. Eddie Lacy, who's struggling. Carjedrick West, who did well against Detroit. That's okay. That's like there, right? Alfred Blue, I don't trust. Darren McFadden against Seattle, I don't trust. Jeremy Hill, CJ, like the whole committee stuff. Like those players around him are much more questionable than Jonathan Stewart, I feel.
I think Forsett at 6,900. That's 300 more. Forsett gets all the carries, and he's versus San Diego, who's terrible versus the running back.
Yeah, that's a better situation. Yeah. So but my point is that he has, for his cost, he's decent. He's not that bad. It's worth a look if you guys are interested in playing him. Dante Moncrief is also another tourney play that I have. He's gotten 5 or 7 games where he's had a touchdown, and Carolina is a very good defense. against the pass. But they've allowed 3 touchdowns all year. Okay, it's a very low number, but whenever they did allow touchdowns, it was never to the first receiver. It was always to the second or third receiver. So if this trend continues, Moncrief can have a good game. So one of my fades is I don't have T.Y. I have T.Y. Hilton as my fade. I don't want to play him. He's 7,700. He's against Josh Norman. I'm pulling the stat that I pulled the last stream that I used. It was that Josh Norman is a good corner. He's held players like Allen Robinson to 27 yards, DeAndre Hopkins to only 53 yards, Brandon Cooks to 79, Mike Evans to 32, and then Doug Baldwin for 23. And then Philly's number one receiver, who wasn't Jordan Matthews, right? Who knows what they had? No more than like 30 yards. So
they weren't relevant.
Yeah, so I think he will do the same to T.Y. Hilton. Also, last game, T.Y. Hilton had a sweet game, right? He had like 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards. But that was with he only caught 4 passes out of 12 targets. Like, that's insane. Like, luck was just throwing the ball and just smashing it to him. But with Josh Norman, I think he'll have a lot more hard time to really make some big plays. Another player that I'm not going to play, and I will endorse fading, is Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is a player that's way too highly costing at 8,800. He's against the 3rd best quarterback defense. He has 1 interception less than Manning, while missing 2 games, which is, if he didn't miss those 2 games, he would be probably the leader.
And that's Peyton Manning, not Eli. Come on.
And in the games where he did do well, it's always like, those fourth quarters, like, come back, boom or bust sort of things, right? And he only got 20 or more points fantasy-wise against bottom 10 quarterback defenses. Against any, decent defense, he struggles to, even get 20. So, if that's the case and he's costing 8,800, it's so hard to get that return on your investment. He's always going to, he can always blow up, but it's just so unsafe that I can't even say that I'll play him returning.
Yeah, just to jump on to your Colts hating ways, Carolina is another team that is all about ball control and is going to keep it out of Luck's hands as often as they can. So that's a reason to limit the whole offense. And last week we had mentioned that Josh Norman did not guard Jordan Matthews, right? Well, the second cornerback that did guard Jordan Matthews held Jordan Matthews to not hit 2.4 total points, which means that Jordan Matthews sucks. So maybe you can weight that in. But Moncrief is going to be guarded by whoever the second cornerback is, who also proved that he's just also in the higher ranks of cornerbacks. I do think it's interesting that you say Moncrief caught a touchdown in 5 of the 7 games. The 2 games that he did not catch a touchdown, those were the games that Luck missed. So I don't know if the trend continues. There's a possibility for another. Luck's playing, Moncrief's playing. Can we just pencil him in as a touchdown? So in any case, I think you're dead on. Most of the Colts offense can pretty much be forgotten. No interest in Gore or Ahmad Bradshaw.
No, not against the running back defense from the Carolina either. I think they're a little more susceptible to the ground, but I'm not gonna trust Frank Gore. He's been either really boom or bust. He's an RB1 that everyone respects. He has a history, but he's had 1 game with 20 points, 1 game with 15, and after that he's had several under 5 points. That's a lot to gamble with. I just can't trust Frank Gore.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's making me a little bit lean towards Frank Gore is that we watched the game between Carolina and Philly. And the running back who struggled was DeMarco Murray, it's DeMarco Murray. We've seen him struggle every single game. So I don't know if I want to get, we know for a fact that the cornerbacks are insane. I don't know that we know for sure that their running defense is as great because they let Ryan Matthews escape with like a 50 or 40 yard running touchdown. So I don't want to count Gore completely out, but I'm not playing him.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Ted Ginn Jr. this game?
No.
Too hard to trust him.
No, he's the number 1 receiver. Maybe he sees Vontae Davis.
On Carolina, just Olsen and Stewart.
Well, recently Philly Brown's had an uptick in targets. Supposedly, I was listening to a podcast today that said Philly Brown is most likely going to finish the year with more receiving yards than anybody else of the receivers on the Panthers. So
It's just insane to me that this team is 6-0 and
It's on the back of the defense. It's on the back of the defense, and it's on the back of Cam.
Yeah.
Because there's this stat that they have the highest conversion rate in the league on 3rd and short, and that's because of Cam Newton. In 7 of 8 1-yard 3rd down runs against Philly, they converted, and it'd be hard to say that it wasn't because of Cam Newton just sneaking the ball.
And they're also the number 1 rushing team too. So I think that really helps them. That's like the best combo, right? To have a really good defense and then be able to just control the ball and just rush your way down the field. Like that's hard to beat. So.
Yeah, I think if you do roster Jonathan Stewart in a tournament, adding the Carolina defense is typically a positively correlated move. It's like playing Gurley with the St. Louis defense, which last week was a really it was the chalk, but
it was chalk and gold.
Really good. So if you are you in the market of playing Stewart, you should also be in the market of playing the Carolina defense. And if you want a triple stack, throw Ted Ginn Jr. in, and maybe he can get you a kick return touchdown.
Yep.
All right. I think any last thoughts about these afternoon games or even updates from the earlier ones before we sign off here?
Yeah, I do want to make a stronger case. I think in our last podcast we were a little bit, mainly me, we were a little low on Forsett. I think that given that is definitely a consideration, because if you're not going for both Devontae Freeman and Gurley, you're going to have to go for one of the lower guys, and he is severely underpriced given his workload. So I do think that Forsett is worth more consideration than I gave him in the last show. Are we doing the below 5,000 thing?
Oh yeah,
that's always fun.
I just wanted to throw out there that I lost the first one in last place, but this last one I won. So
what was the result?
Is that why you're bringing this up?
Yeah.
What was the result? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I had Charles Johnson, who had 1 catch for 21 yards. That was the winning one. You played Brian Quick.
Yes.
Brian Quick had 1 target and no yards.
Perfect.
And Square played
Bailey.
Stedman Bailey, who had 1 catch for 8 yards. So just saying, 1 catch, 21 yards, I win, even if it is a shady little win. So what we do here basically, though, is we take any player in the FanDuel pool who is below 5,000, and we play against each other to see who gets the best, piece of crap player. So I'll let you guys look at that. I'm going to look at that too. I haven't looked.
Sneaky value.
And can we just say that we're ruling out Michael Floyd again? Michael.
Yeah, I like Michael Floyd. Do you like Michael Floyd again this week? Considering that John Brown might be out, they're saying that they might rest John Brown because they have a bye week next week. That they're just going to rest him this week, rest him 2 good weeks, so that he can be nice and healthy for the upcoming playoffs and whatnot. So if that happens, we were talking that the Arizona situation, there's a lot of roulette receivers. Well, if one of them is out of the equation, Larry Fitz and Floyd get a big bump in terms of being a good play, and Michael Floyd is at only 4,900 still. We liked him last week, and we were like, yeah, 4,900, what a steal! And then he went for like 60 yards and a touchdown, and they were like, he's right where he belongs at 4,900.
No, the thing is he played on Monday, and they don't update prices.
Oh, really? That's okay. So that's then perfect, right? You get this another steal.
Just get value again. So let me ask you guys a question while you're looking and why I'm looking. If you had to play these 3 players, list them in who's you're most likely to play to who you're not most likely to play. The 3 players are Michael Floyd, Marvin Jones, and Nate Washington. No Cecil Shorts. He's out.
Say it again.
1, 3, 2.
Michael Floyd, Nate Washington, and Marvin Jones.
In that order for me.
Can you say it?
Michael Floyd, Nate Washington, and then Marvin Jones.
I think, let's see, because I think he's actually the cheapest one. Yeah, Nate Washington's 54 and Marvin Jones is 54. So if you feel that way, then most likely Floyd is in all of your lineups. What if John Brown plays? Does that change your order at all?
No.
It doesn't. You still roll with Floyd. What about you, Nani?
I think I agree with that. I think 132 is about where it should be.
If I had to do it, I would say Nate Washington first, just because we know they're going to be throwing the ball. He's going to see somewhere around the field of 10 to 12 targets like he does when no one else.
Oh, I forget.
Is it the logic of Hopkins.
I forget.
Doubled.
So this is something that I'll say that I missed last cast is that Nate Washington has a revenge game.
Yep.
It's another revenge game, so I switched my order to 3-1-2.
God. Okay, so you're on Nate Washington, Michael Floyd.
So you won't
Marvin
play
Jones.
Christian Michael.
So none of us are thinking Marvin Jones is the top dog.
No, he's way too boomer bust, way too gambly. At least the other ones will get a little more play.
Okay, I have
my
mine too.
I don't.
Ronnie,
Go
do you
ahead,
have
guys.
yours? Okay, for me, I'm going with Kyle Rudolph. Rudolph, the red zone reindeer. I think that we keep seeing AP. I heard a stat today that he, in 11 attempts at the 1 yard line, or within the 5 yard line, he's gotten 1 touchdown. That means he's really bad when he's close to the end zone. And this last game, when he couldn't get in, they threw to the Rudolph, the red zone reindeer. So I'm going with Kyle Rudolph at 4,900.
All right, so I'm gonna pick the man that we talked about on this show. We all liked him. No one had any disagreements about it. We all liked him, and he's under 5K.
Man, he's destined to fall on his face.
It's Richard Rodgers.
There was so much. Everybody was on him, right?
Everybody. No one had any disagreements.
Let me just say, you were probably the only man in the world who is this level of delusional about Richard Rodgers. His name is not Aaron Rodgers. You know that, right? Like, Aaron Rodgers isn't playing tight end. He just shares the same last name.
I think they're like brothers at least. So
I honestly think that you like enjoy the novelty of Rodgers to Rodgers so much that you're forcing it.
Richard Rodgers, week 8 against Denver 5K. Done.
Wow, against Denver too. Okay, what about you, Nani? You got anybody?
Yeah, I do. This is sort of a dart throw,
Well,
but I will go with Marcel Reese at 4,800, the fullback for the Raiders. I just see it as where
stupid play at the red zone. They run that stupid play at the red zone,
and they're gonna do it again. It's just gonna be where the Raiders can't run the ball very well against the Jets, and then Marcel Reese is gonna plot his way out, run this little slant crap, and then just catch a touchdown. Like he's been doing it all year, and he will do it again. So Marcel Reese is my guy.
Nobody interested in the Philly Brown, huh? Even though I brought up the stat that he's only 47. Who? Philly Brown, Corey Brown.
No.
Oh, okay.
Too high on Richard.
Why did you just name him if you like him?
Yeah. Well, I already picked Kyle Rudolph. I actually just picked the first guy I liked as I was scrolling down.
So you're trying to get
straight to the source.
You're trying to get 2 picks in this week, is what you're trying to do. I see
last
you.
week I did it. Last week I had 4.
Pick.
Last week I did 4 picks. I ended up with Chris Johnson, who actually did the worst out of all of them, but it was still enough to win because you guys suck so bad. So hopefully it works again this week.
All
so
right.
one thing I want to add. One thing I want to add too is that we've been doing these analysis for every week. We have an early game and a late game, so make sure you check it out on YouTube. But something that we also enjoy, all 3 of us, we enjoy basketball a lot. So if anyone out there watching, if you guys enjoy basketball and if you guys enjoy the analysis we give for football, let us know, and then we might even start doing basketball. I think that's something that we're talking about and we'd be willing to do if there's an audience, right? So just throwing that out there.
I support that.
Yep. Yep. There you go. So make sure to follow us on YouTube and Twitch if you're on this platform, and also make sure to tweet during the week or even today or even tomorrow in the morning when you wake up or go to bed and think about us. Think
about us while you sleep.
Yeah, exactly what we want you to do. Tweet at us at FantasyLabrats. We take any questions, comments, life, sports, doesn't matter, whatever. So do that. And any other comments? Final?
Can we get a group high five again?
Oh yeah, group high five, week 8 analysis.
Yeah.
In there, week 8. All right, with that, let's sign off.
Later, dudes.